Okay. Hi, Rituparna. How are you doing?
Hi Rajiv, doing really, really well. Thank you so much.
Superb. Lovely to see you again after we spoke on the guest meet chat.
I know, good to be here and speaking to you around this lovely thing of books. So thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. We know each other for a decade plus now, Ritu, and I think it's been lovely that I've been connected and we stayed connected all through. And till recently, I did not know that you are also a crazy book lover like I am. So it's lovely to have you on an event like this.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Right. Before we get started and talk on this very, very powerful book, and I'm hoping that after this conversation, many young leaders go and pick this book because it's definitely a collector's choice. If a reader does not have this book in his or her shelf, he or she shouldn't call himself or herself a reader of books. That's how I see this book as. Let me have the honor of introducing you to the audience. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever part of the world you are sitting in when you listen to the guest of the day. All of you were part of Leaders in Library Season 1. We had 33 guests coming on talking on 22 globally powerful books. Season 2 has 40 exclusive leaders talking on 40 exclusive books. That is massive for a book lover like me and also a book lover like the guest of the day. We have yet another guest for the day, Miss Rituparna Dasgupta, talent and development leader with INTUIT. Close to 20 years of rock solid experience in the space of organization capability building. And she has done almost everything that you can talk on, whether it is, executive coaching, talent management, succession progression, workplace culture, building engagement drives. I think she has touched all the areas and kept her fingers there. Comes with a very, very strong certification background. And she's somebody who does all work based on the learning that she's picked up through certification. And she's got many, I don't have time to read all that. Go and check in the LinkedIn profile of hers. You'll see that. Me and she, we worked on some assignment when she was with Gen Motors many, many years back. And without any exaggeration of what I'm saying here, and for all that love I have for this lady, one of the most smart L&D professionals that I have come across in my career. And beyond all this, I love her being on this event because she's also a crazy book lover like me. So thank you, Ritu, for accepting the invitation and joining the force. Welcome on board.
Thank you so much. I think you're very good for someone's ego, Rajiv. Thank you so much for this kind and gracious word. Thank you so much for having me here. Like you said, crazy book lover. So totally excited and looking forward to doing this with a fellow book lover.
Fantastic. So let's rub our hands and create some heat there, and then we get started with the first question. All right. So the first one comes to you. Tell me, Ritu, how early did books happen in your life? Were you a 6, 7 year old girl or 15, 16-year-old girl, college going, or when did it happen?
Yeah, and as you're asking, I am enjoying reminiscing and going back to when I actually started reading, which was fairly early. And just a bit of a background, I come
Mhm.
from a typical middle class Bengali household and grew up in Kolkata, which is like a book lover's paradise, if I
Paradise.
Yes, if I can say that. So I started with typical fairy tales, once upon a time, and everyone lived happily ever
Yeah,
after. So
yeah.
maybe four or five, but then quickly progressed into, the Enid Blyton's,
Wow.
Satyajit Ray, Rabindranath Tagore. For my fellow Bengalis, Sukumar Ray, I don't know how many
Wow.
still remember, and Roald Dahl. So for me, Rajiv, the earliest memories are these hot, sultry Kolkata summer holidays,
Uh-huh.
and would find me sitting in a corner in the room, engrossed in these books, right?
Beautiful.
And it's so vivid in my memory. Funny that you are asking this because for me it's visual. So if I'm
Hmm.
reading a famous five on an adventure island, it's literally seeing them and experiencing them and doing that with all of them
Right.
um, through the book. Or if you've read Feluda of Satyajit Ray, wanting to be a detective at 6, and all of these have come through books. So I would say very early, and it continued. through college and everything. What happened was, I think college, because I studied literature
Hmm.
and international relations philosophy,
Hmm.
it broadened my genre that I would read. So
Wow.
earlier, I was more fiction, I was more Indian authors, but suddenly, when I went to college, my genre exploded, and I'm
Hmm.
so grateful for that. So I started reading a lot of variety and different authors,
Hmm.
and yeah, different areas once I started my college.
Lovely, lovely.
That's
So
as long back I would.
beautiful. And thank you for bringing back two, three memories. I'm going to talk about this. I'm very, very emotional to say that. So I'm a South Indian, born in Tamil Nadu, but I'm brought up in North India, and my father was posted in the east of India for many years. So my entire growing up has been with the Chattopadhyayas, Bandyopadhyayas, Banerjees, Mondals of the world, and Chatterjees of the world. I lived in Guwahati, I lived in Kolkata. So for me, plus history is a very favorite subject for me and my dad. Uh, I've always marveled at the literature and the intelligence of the Bengali community, which unfortunately got uh, stood up for that word, if you can use with permission, because of the political climate there. But I think their contribution to that space of literature is humongous. And I think 8 out of 10 Bengalis read, wear specs, sing Kishore Kumar songs.
Yeah. And I don't know if the specs is a causality of reading as well, because you're right. I know so many of them with specs as well. But irrespective of that, I think, yeah, the love of books, I don't know whether it's ingrained in our genes
Yes,
or
it's the
however.
DNA.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
look at the kind of guys who had gone to London and done law, literature. Amazing contribution to that particular space. Great. So very, very happy. And second thing that you brought me is the Enid Blyton days. My father would say during those days, the costliest expenditure for the month is Enid Blyton books for you. It used to be costly during those days when Tinkle used to be 65 paisa. I remember Enid Blyton थोड़ा महंगा आता था. But I would tell my dad, buy it.
quite expensive, and also the tintins and the asterisks. I missed out the comics,
Yeah.
but you brought that up. I used to save from allowance or birthday and all, and Calcutta Book Fair is one of the most famous. I'm not sure if it's still the way it was,
Mm.
and we used to really save to buy books in the book fair, right?
Mm.
So you're right. It was
Thank
an
you.
event that I very much looked forward to.
Lovely, lovely. Tintin, my friend had the entire collection with him, and my dad said, Tintin, बहुत महंगा, I won't afford that. You go and pick it up from him and read it. Superb, superb. So tell me, as you grew with the Enid Blyton, then you would have gone to Jeffrey Archer, some Robert Ludlums of the world, and then you went on to join the corporate world and some leadership books, biographies, autobiographies. How did books play a significant role between evolving you as a human being?
Yeah, so what I have at least felt that one is the exposure that it gives you.
Mhm, mhm.
Sitting in the corner of your drawing room, right? One is you travel, you meet people.
Yeah,
That's a way of doing it. But books is such a lovely way of exposing you to so many different areas.
yeah.
And that really broadened my perspective. I think
Mm.
that's the first thing that it did.
Mhm.
The second one was, if you look at books, right, there are so many people who've spent years researching on a
Yeah.
particular topic. They have
Mm.
empirical data and
Correct.
evidence, which I could use in the corporate world. I don't have to go into the academic and
Absolutely.
do all of that all over again. So it's so easy to pick up work of people with very evidence database
Mm.
and use it with
True.
ease in your corporate world, right? So
Right.
and the whole thing of perspectives, it shapes your perspectives, right?
Completely.
What you read, the inferences you draw out of it, you discuss with people. So for me, it really broadened my horizon. It made me think of looking at one thing in multiple ways.
Mm.
It made me connect dots better, because one thing, there could be so many adjacencies around that. I
Yeah.
got so much of that from books, right? So I
Absolutely.
have, and you spoke about on my certification and everything else, it was that need to go learn more and to
Yeah.
know more. And I think books did that a lot for me.
True, true, true. The biggest blame I give to books is books make you a more curious person, and that search is just on, right? Never ever quenching at all.
Absolutely. I think one book leads you to three other books
Absolutely.
from there. So that's what happens to me typically. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Super. It just amplifies you. It just expands you as a human being. Beautiful. One of the guests who came in, he said, I don't know, people may have multiple words to use, Raji, but I think one simple word I can say is it makes me a more aware person.
Yeah,
I will sum everything in that one word called awareness. I said, wow, that's a nice one.
absolutely. And I think it makes you more and more hungry as well for
Yes.
more awareness and more knowledge, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Lovely. So tell me, with all those books that you have read, and I have a lovely shelf behind you, what made you pick this book for the day, Grit by Angela Duckworth? And her books are amazing.
Yeah, so I've become a personal kind of a fan after reading her books and her podcasts and everything else. But I think two reasons, Rajiv. One is I work in human resources. So
Hmm,
one thing that we always talk about is talent and
hmm,
achievement and results and outcome. And this helps to really understand, decode
hmm,
on how grit plays a role
hmm,
in high achievement, high skill, or high performance. So
hmm.
for me, it's a direct correlation to what I see at work, right?
Right,
um, the second one really is why I picked this is last year, right?
right.
So 2020 taught us so many lessons.
Yeah.
Of that, one is really about grit and resilience, of
Hmm.
staying the course, staying with it. So for me, was out of all the books, the timing is very apt to pick up this book,
Yeah.
right? So I think these are the two reasons. And personally, I believe in the work that she has done, Angela Duckworth. So I think, yeah, all of these put together.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for bringing this very strongly, Ritu, because I run a book-based consulting house, right? And I keep telling all those people that please don't look at books as just a tinkle or a chanda mama. Each book has got so many years of research. You can pick up data, templates, techniques, tools, and just straight away apply it in your life. And you will see the benefit because they're authentic, they're time tested across cultures and organizations. So why even doubt it? Just pick it up and try it. It'll
Right.
manifest in different ways for your own life.
Absolutely. Half the work your author has done it for you, right? All you have to do is get that, see how it fits into your context and use it. Totally
Absolutely,
agree. Yeah.
absolutely. Superb, superb. Thanks for bringing that. So, young minds who are listening to this, pick up these books not just as tinkles and chanda mamas, but books that can really make you go and apply certain things in your own journey. And if you want to become a successful leader like the guest for the day, I think books is an easy route. All right. Oh, superb. So, let's get into a couple of things that Angela is talking about. I'm going to ask the first one, the title of the book. So, what is grit for you, Ritu? That's my first question. Second, the author says efforts counts twice. How do you interpret this?
Yeah, so for me, grit is a couple of things. Is not giving up in the face of adversity, and seeing your goals and your purpose through,
Hmm,
even when it gets difficult. So how
hmm,
do you stay the course? It is also consistency,
hmm,
right? You can do that only when you're consistently working towards it.
hmm,
So grit for me is not taking something, feeling bored, and not even realizing what it could have achieved for you.
hmm.
It's staying the course, being consistent, and being at it literally in the face
Right,
of happiness or adversity. So
right,
that's grit to me.
right. And the second question was the author talks about efforts counts twice.
Yeah.
What is she trying to tell us?
Yeah. So we hear so much about talent, right?
Hmm,
And what I picked up from the book on effort is, let's just say if everyone has a
hmm,
base level talent,
hmm,
when you apply effort to that base level talent,
hmm.
right, you get some sort of a skill,
True.
right? So just keep that effort, and the more you double,
Mm.
right? The correlation is very simple. So your skill gets better and better,
Right.
right?
Right.
Again, when you have the skill
Mm.
and you start putting more and more effort on
Mm-hmm.
that skill, you get
Mm-hmm.
even better and better, and you get higher achievement.
Right.
So,
Right.
what literally the author talks about is effort counts twice, right?
Mm.
Once
Mm.
is just getting to the skill
True.
and then being at it on the skill to really get higher achievement. So,
Definitely.
that's how I read it, and that's why I felt that it doesn't matter if you have this talent or this talent, it's
Mm.
the effort that really counts at the end.
Right. Right. So based on what you understood from the book, I have a question that just cropped up in my head. Are these two words the same, grit and resilience? People use these together.
Yeah, so I'm no expert, but I'll just share my perspective. I definitely feel they're correlated, right? I wouldn't say they are same in my word. So grit is completely being at it, and I
Mm.
feel somewhere by
Mm.
working on the grit and being at it,
Mm.
you build your resilience as well,
Lovely. Lovely.
right? So I think different experiences come,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're gritty,
Mm.
you become more and more resilient through those
Resilient. So in a
experiences.
way, can I say that the grit is an input and resilience is an output? If
Yeah,
I'm gritty for a long time on multiple occasions, consistently, constantly, and continuously, then I come out as a resilient person or a more resilient person.
I would say yes. That's how I see
Mhm.
it, and of course, you'll have to be tested against multiple scenarios
Hmm.
on your grit, and then seeing how resilient you
How
are.
resilient you are.
Yeah,
Super, super. So let's when you spoke about adversity, what I liked is this powerful book called "Attitude Is Everything" by Jeff Keller.
yeah.
He makes a very powerful statement. He says every adversity comes with it, if not more, an equal opportunity. I thought that was marvelous. And for somebody to go through that adversity and then taste the opportunity, I think the only tool is being gritty.
I agree. And at the cost of sounding cliche, it's that classic of how you, it's not the situation, it's how you respond to the situation, right? At least I keep reminding myself every time. And yeah, and I think if you keep at it, that's how you build your grit and your resilience.
So,
Yeah.
so beautiful, beautiful. So let's delve a little deeper. Okay, it's good to know that you have to be gritty. Why is it knowing that you are gritty so important? Or how gritty are you? Why is it important? Is that measurement or is that review an important element for leaders? And how have you done that for yourself?
Yeah. So for me, it is a bit of a competition with my own self, if
Mhm.
I have to say it about being gritty, right? It's important for me to know, it's really to tell myself, can I do it, right?
Mm. Mm.
And then it's the, I would say, the high that you get from doing it,
Mhm.
right? And I reflected on this. So
Mm.
I correlate a lot of this to team sport and competitive team sport that I've played in my younger days. And
Mm.
it's almost like running that marathon, right?
Mm.
And it's the last mile that's the most difficult,
Correct.
right? So for me, it's in that last mile, the finish line, to know that I can do it,
Mm.
right? So the more I know I'm gritty, I know I can do it.
Yeah.
And then finally, the euphoria that comes in
Mm.
crossing the finishing line.
Mm.
I think for me, that's why it's very important to know how gritty I am, trying out on different goals and purposes, my grit,
Mhm.
and figuring out what I could do more or differently to keep building my grit. So it's
Beautiful.
very, very important, I
I,
would say.
I love that race example that you gave because you're so right, right? When you see those races, if not a marathon, but at least the races, laps, right? There are some runners who give it up in the last lap minus one, and the body language shows. I think it's all about staying till the finish line, right? So when you gave this example, I'm going to ask you, Ritu, any one example or incident in your life that you can pinpoint and say, you know what, Rajiv, this is one classic experience in my life where I can say I actually was very gritty and I came out very successful. Leave 2020 aside.
Yeah, and I'm not going to pick something from my leadership, though I do feel sports has such huge implications on how we are as leaders. So I think this is an incident from college, and
Mm-hmm.
I used to be in competitive sports and rowing,
Ah,
and rowing requires muscles and it
yeah.
requires a lot of strength and endurance. I was a lean, lanky person, and so the biggest thing that the coach had looking at me was, "You'll not be able to do this
Mm,
because it's a lot of stamina,
mm,
it's a lot of endurance and
mm-hmm.
being at it, right?" So for me, then I think that's where I'm jumping ahead. But what Angela talks about is deliberate practice, right?
Right,
Of
right.
getting there. So for me, it was like I really wanted to do it. I
Mm,
wanted to prove myself, and it was something I was passionate about. So, how over the course of months through practice, I
mm-hmm.
built that stamina and the endurance to
Mm-hmm.
actually be able to do that. Right.
Right, right.
So, and I've seen that come up, of course, in the corporate world. But since you asked me for one example, I think that has left a indelible print in my head.
Right, right, right. No, you're true because the coach himself said that you can't do it, and here's somebody who practiced it and then finally said, I'm going to do this. I think not because you're talented, but I think just because of grit.
I
Yeah.
and that's where I never rode any time, right? I
Mm,
just
mm.
felt that, wow, I think I want to do this,
Right.
and it's gonna help me build certain things. And so, yeah, it wasn't talent at all. It was a lot of practice, endurance, and being at it.
Lovely. You know, it also brings a very powerful thought process in my mind now as you're speaking, Ritu, is, and you spoke about the flow, right? So when you pick up a job in life or you do something which has got that mojo or the flow or the deep flow, whatever you want to talk about, the individual will by automatically use grit and stay resilient to win the course and prove himself or herself because he and she is loving what he or she is doing. If you do something that you don't like a lot, the grit wouldn't come naturally as it should be coming out.
Yeah,
I think
and
somewhere the passion bit also plays a very significant role, isn't it?
I feel it plays a huge role, as in,
Yeah,
am I loving what I'm doing? Because
yeah,
imagine if you didn't and you had to go such a long way, you'll be miserable throughout,
absolutely.
right?
Oh,
So I think it's a huge differentiator having a passion around it. So yeah.
absolutely. Beautiful, beautiful. Lovely. So that takes me to the next question. The author says growing grit from inside out because it's a very intrinsic thing and you can display it through resilient behaviors. And I can say, ha, she displayed resilient behaviors across multiple occasions. So I can say Ritu is a gritty person. We just spoke about passion, and Angelina just says interest plays a very significant role. So, how is grit and interest connected? And could you explain this for young leaders? How should they start looking at these two words together?
Yeah, so what I correlate is to another great person is Simon Sinek's The Golden Circle, right? For me, for
Start with why.
everything, I think the Golden Circle and the why, which is at the core and the center, is the most important, right?
Mm,
If I'm able to answer why I want to do this
mm,
and what's it gonna get for me, I think that's where the interest and the passion and why I should follow something really comes out. So for me, the why is extremely important. The other thing is, if you said it, if you enjoy, if you love doing something, you are likely to follow it through. You're in your mojo.
mm,
You would want to go deeper at it. You're going to get better at it, and you will enjoy the journey as well as much as the outcome, right?
mm,
So for
mm.
me, I feel that's why interest or passion uh, plays a huge role in determining how gritty we are, right? So and that only comes from self discovery.
Ah,
I That's what my
Right.
at least I'm a strong believer is someone can't tell me that you are good at it. I have to figure it out myself, what my
Mm,
strengths are or what I really enjoy doing.
mm,
And I feel that's where she mentions that uh, it's inside out, right?
mm, mm.
Yeah.
So one again question. So when you say I'm doing something where I'm very interested in, I'm doing something where there's a lot of passion, I'm loving it. Does it also give me an allowance to be less gritty?
Yeah, the great question, Rajiv. I don't think we can use any of these as an excuse
Yeah.
of giving up because I don't like it.
Mm,
And that's where I feel it's important to experiment and to figure out where your interest lies.
mm,
And I think it's more to do with your interest and less to do with grit about
right.
giving up. So
Yeah.
sometimes going through multiple things to figure that out, I don't think that tells you're not gritty. But
Mm,
once you've figured it out, giving it up, I think that's where
I agree.
definitely grit
I agree.
comes to play.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Lovely.
But great question, as in, I don't think anything like we talk so much about personality. You can't say that I am X, Y, and that's why I cannot do this, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I think probably the effort to be gritty and the effort I need to invest in time to stay resilient may probably come down a couple of notches if it is an area of passion. If it is outside an area of passion, I may have to pull myself a little more, stretches more.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, I'm sure not everyone are in their sweet spot
Yeah,
of doing what they love and enjoy, and but they spend a lifetime doing it as well. So I think that's another kind of a grit as well of not giving up and being at it, right? So
yeah,
though I know Angela doesn't talk about it in the book, but um, I would definitely think that's another way of looking at it as well.
absolutely. But I keep talking about this to people saying, please find your flow spot as early in life if possible. The earlier you find, you have a longer and a happier space to be gritty, resilient, do a lot of stuff.
And you're right. I think you're taking away my talking points now, Rajiv, when you share that. But the earlier you are in your career, I think more you can afford to experiment, right?
Right,
You can
right.
afford to move around, do different things, and figure out which one is more suited where your heart lies, right? The more later you go, and I'm going to use Maslow's hierarchy here, is your needs become different. So
I
your
agree.
ability to experiment and
Mm,
try out different things in a sense gets limited as well. So
mm,
totally earlier on, don't stick to doing one thing, try out different things, experiment. And what Angela talks about in her book is it can be sometimes frustrating, it can
mm,
sometimes be messy, uh,
mm.
but being at it and
Yeah,
doing different things, that is grit as well, right? Sometimes being at going through different things till you find what it is, that's also another kind of a grit. So
yeah. And you said that very lovely. Staying at it on multiple things is nothing but an effort to self-discover. You said that word beautifully.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's self-discovery, right? Like you said, awareness and self-discovery. It's self-discovery by hands-on doing something,
Ah,
experiment. So
correct, correct.
yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Lovely. So I'm going to come to the next two words, and these two are exclusive words in English, but I think Angela brought these words, starting with P, very beautifully together. Practice and purpose. I thought this was very, very powerful by her. She says, between practice and purpose, both are equally important. For you, how do you see these two words, and which do you think is more powerful?
So I'll echo you that both are equally important. But if you ask me, I go back to the why always. So for me, the purpose,
Mm,
um, purpose becomes much bigger. I need to get that first. Is
mm,
like, what are my intentions, what I want to do, how do I want to contribute, right? And once I feel I am there,
Mm.
is when practice for me comes in, and then grit of being at it through
Ah,
deliberate practice every day. So,
right.
um, and I love what she speaks. I think very practically, she speaks about purpose that as human beings, I think we are hardwired to pursue both very hedonic
Mm.
sort of a purposes and eudaimoc purposes, right?
Right, right.
It's about some of us want this more and some of us want the other one more, but it's figuring out which one what and why,
Mm.
and then going after that. So
Right, right.
yeah.
So, other than reading this book and understanding this, what would be one strong advice to young leaders from your side, Ritu, by which they can get this purpose and understand this early on and start practicing towards that? It sounds easy as both of us are talking, but there are many young minds outside listening to us and will be listening to us. They have their own battles in their head.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll say this is because we live in the current times of instant everything, right? Everything
Mm.
is instant.
Yeah.
Purpose isn't at all, and I think starting with that it's not instant. You can't Google your purpose,
Mm.
so
I love
it's it's
that.
about being very patient about it and being very deliberate about it, right?
Right.
So I would say experiment, being very curious. Then staying with the messiness, the inefficiency, not giving
Mm.
up because
Mm.
I wanted to become an artist, but I don't think I can. So move on
Mm.
and see what else you could do, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not instant, it's messy, but be with it, experiment,
True. True. True.
and you'll get there, is what my advice would be.
Lovely one. I think I like the word experiment and messy. I think very powerful words. It's going to be messy, but staying through that mess and coming out is what grit is all about. At the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Superb, superb. I mean, I can relate to so many messes around me that have happened, and some messes I have created. And today I feel like, how stupid I was, shit. And today, if you rewind life, I could have handled that better.
Absolutely. And if you're a parent, you will connect that how we went through that. You want to be a scientist to a detective to a
Yeah,
fashion designer to a teacher. And it's actually like that in real
yeah.
life as well, right?
I
So,
know.
yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful. Look how clarity starts coming when you read books, right?
totally. Yes.
Lovely, lovely, super. That and you spoke about we as kids and we grew and became parents, and today we have responsibility of taking care of our kids and giving them as responsible citizens to the society, and hopefully we do that. Do you think parenting for grit is a very important task on our responsible shoulders, and why do you think so?
Yeah, and I think for me, it's much easier to answer grit with leadership and work. With parenting, again, it's so messy, and there are so many experiments you're doing as a parent. Uh, I That's why I feel grit is very important, right?
Mm,
Because
mm,
if you are gritty, you build that in your kids because
right.
they see, they pick up, they start emulating you pretty early on in life.
True.
So how you address failures, how you are reacting, responding, how you're staying the course, I think these are lessons they pick up from parents and their surroundings. So it's very important, how gritty you are, that reflects on children as well. So
Any technique that you use with your child
I'm perhaps
that
I'm
could be a good technique to parents listening to you.
Yeah, I can give you a lot of good leadership techniques. Parenting, I don't know, but I feel one thing that I do, I don't know if it's for grit or not, but it's to build critical thinking in children, right? Because
Beautiful.
our education is so memory and rote oriented, but we realize that you have to allow children to think for themselves.
Hmm.
So I've actually realized I can try my coaching skills with my daughter as well. She's just about 10, but
Yeah.
I can actually ask the same questions, which helps her think than giving her the answers. So
Lovely,
it's
lovely.
very strange, Rajiv, if you pick up situation leadership or Ken
Mhm.
Blanchard, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Depending on what your situation, your kid is, you can choose to tell or to coach, right?
absolutely.
You can adapt your parenting. And as I'm saying this, it's funny how I bring my work back into
Well,
parenting.
that's beautiful, right?
I
Because
think,
all these techniques can be applied in life. There is nothing called work and home. It's a
yeah,
myth. You can apply it anywhere.
yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, I do ask a lot of questions and try to bring that critical thinking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can tell you this, Ritu. My son is 13. He turned 13 recently, and he says, "Dad, I'm in preteens." And in the last 1.5 years, you can distinctly see rebellious behavior. 1.5 years, 2 years back, he would be a good son. Yes, father. Yes, mother. Now he has a question for anything you ask him to do. He needs an answer. That answer has to be convincing in his own head.
Yeah,
How much ever effort we make, he needs to get that answer in his head. "Ah, this makes sense what dad is saying. Oh, dad is blabbering." If he sees sense, he would budge his ass and do something. Else, he would say, "No, this doesn't make sense to me." And he says, "Dad, I'm preteens." I mean, can you believe gives me a statement saying, "Papa, I can handle it." I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, right. Seriously, at 13, you're giving me this answer. But what you said makes sense. It only tells me that I can't be in the telling mode. I have to be only in that asking mode and questioning mode. And
Absolutely, and you have to be resilient as well in the face of such situations as well, of not giving up and saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't handle this." Right? So yeah,
I
totally
I know, super, super. Leadership lessons can come from books and can be used anywhere in our life. So
anywhere.
it's
Yeah.
just about that individual wanting to do that and not wanting to do that. There's no watershed of personal and professional at all. Beautiful.
And I think that's the beauty of how what you learn in one place you could apply in multiple, right? So
Absolutely. Super. That brings me to the last question of this conversation. With all the years of experience and 10 plus years you were with one automobile organization, you defined loyalty. Today, in the world where 3 years, 4 years seems to be loyalty, you stood for 10 years with an organization and then you moved on in your career. With all those experiences, two razor sharp advices to young minds who seem to be in a far more messier environment than we were when we started, if I can say that.
yeah, yeah. So I think one is that self discovery early on. And I call it finding the sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
There's something that I enjoy doing,
Mm,
and finding a place that allows me to apply that.
right.
And let's not kid ourselves. I think money is important, right? So, and I get paid for it as well,
Mm,
right? So
mm,
I think figuring out that sweet spot where I can find these three,
mm,
uh, I think that would be one. And for me is the other advice would be then practice. If you feel, again, I go back to the thing of instant gratification,
right.
getting something instantly. So effort, right? So if you feel this is what you want to do, then
Mm,
practice, be at it, deliberate practice, build habits around it,
mm,
that will enable you to get there. I think simple stuff, it sounds, but you have to go out and do it, which is
mm.
messy again, right?
True,
So
true, true. Very
um,
powerful. So, guys, for you to implement these two advices, the first step is to buy this book and read the book and then get started with what she's saying because it's tremendous. We just had 45 minutes. We could touch on few things of the book. You can't do justice to the depth of this knowledge the book has in 45 minutes. The book has got paragraphs and pages of expansion and elaboration of what Ritu spoke in the last 45 minutes. So, guys, go pick up the book and read it. It'll have a crazy impact on you as it has had in both of us. So, Ritu, I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I can keep talking and talking, talking, and both of us are talkers. We love talking a lot. We're very expressive people.
absolutely.
But the format allows me only 45 minutes of time. I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I hope you had a good time with them.
Thank you for allowing me to share some thoughts around one of my favorite books, Rajiv. So thank you so much again.
Superb. Lovely. See you soon sometime. Till then, you take care.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Keep reading.
Thank you. Happy reading for everyone else. Thank you. Bye
Everyone else.
bye.
Yes. Bye bye.